right now we're doing a lot of advocacy and infrastructure build out in some developing nations on renewable energy transitions and integrating a lot of these renewable electricity programs and technology to be able to allow for a cleaner transition into renewable energies. Every day is pretty inspiring. I work with incredibly smart and passionate and driven people. And that's, I think, a lot of the reason that people get into nonprofit work is because there's a very clear mission and a very clear cause, and you're really in there for the passion that you have for that end goal. We kind of make a joke in development and fundraising that you're every single day trying to put yourself out of business. You want to get to a point where your work is no longer needed.
We've hired a lot of people into HR, actually, that are more recent graduates. Some of them actually from graduate school, but we had one particular individual, and when we interviewed him, his background was very interesting. He had gone to school and was an accountant, had actually worked in a couple accounting firms for the first 5 years, and then decided he wanted to do something different. So the position we had open at the time was an HR representative, so being more of a generalist. But he had some really good, had a couple really good internships, and we could just see that he had a lot of potential. So he came into the HR representative role. He did well in the role, but it obviously wasn't his passion. He was very interested in more of the analytic piece, was great at putting reports together. And not so much the day-to-day interaction, maybe coaching a manager or working with an employee. So we had an opportunity, we had an opening in our HRIS group. He came to me and he said, I really think that would be a better option. We just had a conversation of why he thought that would be a better career path, and I was totally supportive of that. Employees can be afraid to have that conversation with their manager, but for me, with him, I look at it as if they're good at what they do and they have potential, then I'd like them to stay with the organization and find that right fit. So we just had dialogue back and forth, and he's taken that job and he's doing exceptionally well. He just really excels at it and much more creative. Now that he's kind of got that job, that seems to be a fit for him.
I have one student. She was an international student. She was first generation student, and she was in my French class, my level 3 French class. And she was already good, but she was very shy, she didn't speak that much. The whole class was about post-colonialism in France and immigration and how immigrants are represented in cinema. And she loved the topic so much that she really trained to just be very inspired, and she bloomed. And she started to speak way more. And then she moved to the main campus. And it's always a challenge for my students to move from the regional campus to the main campus. And she kept learning French. And now she's doing a summer camp. And she was such a shy student. And she also part of my dance with the immigrants because she is an immigrant. She used to be very uncomfortable and not being sure, why am I doing those movements and why am I even here? And now she's in front doing her thing, and we all follow her, and the confidence she gained, such a reward for me. I think it's one of the best parts of the job, is just seeing them becoming strong adults.
During the time that I was a marketing manager at the mall at Tuttle Crossing, one of the things that we did as marketing managers was we ran the Santa set. Every Christmas, starting literally the first weekend of November, you had to make sure that Santa was down there, and Santa was cheerful, and Santa was ho ho ho, and Santa had a great line. We decided that there were kids that wanted to see Santa that would never have the opportunity to because they had social issues. Maybe they were autistic. So we set up an event called Serene Santa. I had a time when Santa was at his throne when the mall was closed. We turned off the lights, we turned off the music, and we allowed each child 20 minutes uninterrupted with Santa. The parents of those children were thrilled. They became the most amazing brand ambassadors for our mall. It was one of the best things I ever did as a marketer.
I did this event called a Polar Plunge, and it happens statewide annually, and they have different dates, but essentially people are taking this jump into a freezing cold lake to raise awareness and money, and the one I did was specifically for Special Olympics Ohio. What was bigger than that story, even though it's a great story in itself, is that the guy who put it on every year, he was a police officer in this county, he had passed away unexpectedly. and his wife now carried on the tradition for him. When I talked to her, she broke down about her husband on camera, and that was one thing that really hit me. It was an honor to be able to share his story and keep his memory alive and honor his memory through her and through everybody participating and then talking about the whole event. And then in college, I did a story about, an in-depth story about the correlation between concussions and mental health. Our specific subject, his hockey career ended early because of the amount of concussions he had. So being able to share his story and how he bounced back from overcoming that adversity and that, major event that happened in his life, from sport, and then still being able to be around the team and still be around hockey even though he can't physically play it, that's another impactful story.
One example is about a little girl who, she liked violin, it was very nice and everything, but she didn't do a lot of practicing, but she kept at it, and I just said, you just keep working. And she did. She started to put her heart and soul into it. And I had the impression to invite her to go perform with a group to China. I said, if you practice 2 hours a day, I don't know if this is possible, but something may happen. And she went and practiced at least 2 hours a day, and now she's going to China in just 5 days. And she was able to audition for the group, and now she's touring China. So I just think that's so remarkable that just putting that opportunity out there, she was able to create greatness within herself and her goals. So I had taught her for 4 years, and when she came to me, we weren't able to even play through a piece completely. And that was 4 years ago, and now she's able to play multiple pieces through all the way. And when I gave her the challenge, it was almost 13 months ago, and so she's just made incredible progress.
Recently worked for a company that had a lot of scientists. It was pretty rigorous. We called it the MBA of the company. For the first time ever, they allowed technical leaders who didn't have direct reports into the program. These are folks who are wickedly brilliant in what they do, yet they just never had an opportunity to go through any kind of course to learn how to lead. I had them in our program. It was just so enlightening because you could just see the light bulbs coming off, and they got really excited about what they were learning. They got excited about what they could do with it, and realized that there were some things that had been in their way for a long, long time that they couldn't figure out why, but this tool and with my coaching helped them figure that out. It was truly transformational for them. An inspirational story that I have that focuses directly on an individual, a VP within the business came to me with a concern. He had to go talk to a client about overspending on the project, and our company was going to lose a lot of money unless he was able to influence them. So he came to me to ask how have that kind of a conversation with the people without them getting upset and angry. We talked about different scenarios, and he even practiced with me, which surprised me. He went off with another VP to have that conversation, called me when he got back and said that he was surprised that it went extremely well, number one. Number two, they got more than what they were going in to negotiate for, which he was thrilled about that. And the third thing was he started laughing and he said, I think they used the same techniques that we did. That was pretty exciting because it saved the company probably hundreds of thousands of dollars and relationships with the client.